Welcome back, you beautiful, wonderful people, to another draft. So this week we're doing the last Duskmourn drafts for a very long time, for the foreseeable future. So we're gonna have this Duskmourn draft, which is the last of the premiere drafts for a while, where we'll draft with a little pod, and then we'll play just best of one games. And then on the Patreon, we're gonna have a traditional Duskmourn draft. So those will be best out of three matches. And I'm pretty happy with how both of the drafts went for this week's uploads. And the next week we'll start getting into foundations. And once we blow through those, we'll have some Aether Drift drafts coming out, as well as a couple of Bloomburrow, because when they cycle through all their drafts, there was a couple of Bloomburrow draft opportunities in the cycle. So that's what we have coming up, and let's see what happens. Here we go. Pick one of pack one. We do have the ley line of transformation, but I'm not really interested in it. There's not a lot of good things to set up with it if you're just drafting Duskmourn. So at this point, I'm thinking about taking Kona. I haven't drafted with Kona just because I've always had like a more interesting rare to go off of. But the ability to just put something from your hand onto the battlefield for free if it's a permanent is a pretty big upside if you can get that to go off. So I was a little hesitant, but I think I'm actually excited to give this thing a try. And the reason I'm hesitant is because in the past when I've tried doing like green white drafts, they always feel like they can fall a little bit short. Sometimes they're hard to just get going or pop off because everything has to be tapped in order for you to get the benefits. And if your opponent is being like really aggressive or they always have a lot of blockers, sometimes it can feel like there's never really a good opportunity for you to get your stuff going. So here I'm looking at Shroud Stomper because if you actually get this permanent on the battlefield, it's always a good thing, and that's how it should feel for being 7 mana in 2 colors. I'm also browsing my options with the red because Glassworks is usually a useful card. Like, it's very rarely that that card doesn't put in work, in my opinion. So I decide to go with the Glassworks. So right now we're looking at possibly a Gruul deck. There is some color fixings with the greenhouse, but you know, we're still pretty open. Just because you have 3 cards doesn't mean you're committed to those little lowly 3 cards. I kind of ignore the uncommons in this pack being the let's play its game, or let's play a game, just because I don't really think I want to go green black for this. I'm more inclined to go either green white or green red because both of those set your creatures up to have a better chance of swinging. Because the red has a lot of first strike, the white has some pretty good removal, like that Cease from Slumber there. And they do have that one creature where if you attack with it, it'll give something else indestructible. So that's a good way to also get your creature to be tapped but not dead at the beginning of your second main phase. Oh, there she is, the Hardened Escort. There's also the baseball bat, which is a really nice find for us. I'm looking at the Rite of the Moth because I've had fun with the reanimator packages that you can do. So at this point, I have a lot more white cards than red cards. We'll see what I ultimately decide to pick here, but it looks like we're set up okay to try that green-white build that I was hesitant about. Now we're just picking up some of the extra cards at the end of the packs. And pack 2 we get a second ley line of transformation, which is not exactly what I wanted to see. The Unstoppable Slasher is such a powerhouse, especially in draft, that I'm seriously consider taking him. But I decide to take the Sheltered by Ghosts because it's, if nothing else, temporary removal and giving something lifelink, which can really help me push through. I'm thinking about the Head Shredder because when you have a creature crew a vehicle, that creature is tapped. So it's like a workaround way to get your creatures tapped without risking them facing lethality like in combat. But I ultimately take the Glimmer Seeker here because my thought is that Head Shredder has a better chance of getting back to me than the Glimmer Seeker. The coordinated clobbering is also something I'm happy to see because you do tap your creatures. So again, just another way to get into that. I take Altonac because he's great. He's just a fun card to have. And now we're just picking up some other good cards in our color. We'll see if they make it or if we take them out because they're filler. Like, I kind of count the Manifest Dread as a filler. I would rather run the Wary Watchdog because as a 3/1, he's just more of an inconvenience and poses an issue more often for the opponents. Because it's the difference between getting rid of a 3/1 and a 2/2 aren't huge, but in combat, the 3/1 poses lethal damage to other creatures more often. So it feels a little more inconvenient. Plus, the Surveil when they come in and out is always really nice. And at this point, I have no manifesting strategies whatsoever. So the opponent to my right is doing their best to consider all their options, which means I might skip ahead to when we get a pack back to us. Oh, never mind, I don't need to. But look, the Head Shredder came back. So the gamble paid off. This pack has basically nothing to offer us if we don't want to take black cards. This pack also isn't in our colors, but we're down to like the little leftover stuff at the end anyway. So we'll see what pack 3 has for us. Alright, pack 3, we have the central elevator, which we're not doing this time. Already did that. Defiant Survivor is a really lucky pick here. There's also a dual land. But I think that the Defiant Survivor, a first copy of that, is better to pick up than the dual land. So we'll see if that land comes back to us or not. We would be lucky if it did. Alright, I decide to go with the uncommon here that lets you kind of draw a card if you have another low-powered creature. I'm looking around. Oh, maybe I don't make that pick. I'm looking around at the roller coaster ride because it can be like a good removal spell. But I'm also not running that much red. Like right now I have a Glassworks and I don't know if it's going to make it in the final cut. Yeah, there we go. We're moving it. So because we're moving that, I'm thinking of going with the Monstrous Emergence just to get some more removal in the deck here, because right now I have like a Coordinated Clobbering, a Sheltered by Ghosts, and one Seized from Slumber. Okay, Surgical Suite or Trapped in the Screen? Do I want Graveyard Recursion or Removal? Decide to pick Removal, not bad. There's a second Trapped in the Screen. There's also a Fear of Abduction. The only thing about the Fear of Abduction is like it does cost 6, but with the way that my deck is set up here, having another 6 drop wouldn't be like the worst thing in the world. This pack has 1 white card and no green cards. And the Possessed Goat we're not really interested in. Like, discarding cards for us doesn't really mean a lot. We got a second Head Shredder, which is another rare card if I want it. So this pod isn't really concerned with them. And it's funny because I don't think the Head Shredder is ever, like, heavily talked about as, like, a super great card. But I think it's gonna do an okay job in our deck, actually. And we got the dual land coming back to us, so I think people just aren't interested in this pod and trying out green-white. And I think the reason for that is, at this point in time, with the Duskmourn draft kind of well established and like people talking about it online through like videos or blogs, whatever it may be, green-white was kind of regarded as like one of the weaker strategies. So not a lot of people will like go with it right off the bat. They'll usually try to lean into some other combination. But I'm happy with this. I like the cards we were able to pick up. So I'm going to arrange my deck and I will get back to you. Alright, I have the deck. So the big key things we have here are the Altenac, the Kona, the Defiant Survivor, and then we have more or less like a lot of ways to get things tapped and a little bit of removal. I think the Rootwise Survivor can also be really helpful. The problem is a 5-drop that needs to be tapped in order to start doing its thing. Even though it turns your lands into creatures, sometimes those lands feel a little bit small with the power and toughness just being 3/3. So it's a little bit better than the Defiant Survivor that manifests and makes 2/2s, but sometimes it just feels like it falls a little short if your opponent keeps playing like really big stuff. But that's what the removal in our deck is for. We also have the House Cartographer that likes to be tapped that can like get us more lands, so maybe we can get off the ground sooner. And I don't really have any of the say its names, so the Altenac is serving as just a big scary top end 9/9 creature with trample. We're not looking to cheat him out, really. Here we are, first hand of the first game. We have 3 forests, so no plains. No dual lands and no plains. I have the Wary Watchdog, so I have at least one chance, too, if I get it to die somehow, of surveilling, like digging deeper to go find a plains or a white source of mana. And if I get one more land, I can play Kona, maybe figure out how to get that thing tapped and just start slapping down white permanents. So I opt to keep it, which we'll see how lucky I get here, because I know that some people who play more carefully and less flippantly would say that, like, this is, you know, irresponsible. So here we are surveilling, and if it's not a white land or a spell we can play right now, I'm just getting rid of it. Even though, like, there is always a time and a use for a jump scare. And then on the flip side of things, our opponent has 3 different colors of lands and they're all basics. So they got a pretty lucky start over there, getting a lot of colors. And they have the Oblivious Bookworm, which is really good for, like, fixing all your draws, shuffling through your deck. Oh, we got a plains, we're lucky. So they can kind of ride the Bookworm to victory, like fixing their draws a little bit better than we can. But they can also churn through their deck so fast that if we drag this into like a late game, they just run out of cards before us. It happens a lot with like these kind of manifest related decks that the blue-green usually leans on. Alright. So we're playing our first white creature. I think that doing this the other way, of playing the Hardened Escort and then the Glimmer Seeker, would also be fine. Just because then the Hardened Escort can start swinging sooner and making things indestructible sooner. But it's okay this way, because my plan was probably, like, get the Glimmer Seeker down, and then maybe play, like, the baseball bat, but their board is so wide now, I have a second baseball bat. I'm wondering if, like, playing Kona might actually be something that I opt to do here. A little old past me. Because I only have one white source. So if I play the bat, that's all I'm doing. I don't have like a 2-cost green spell. So it's like, do I develop the board? Do I trap in the screen one of their little thingies? Or do I play a bat and swing, and then they probably trade with whatever I don't tap down? Alright, I elect to be not totally, like, maximizing mana efficiency here. But I think my thought is that they're definitely gonna want to block this. And get it off the table. Oh, never mind. But my thought was, if they do want to block it and get it off the table, by tapping down the Unsettling Twins, they'd have to double block and trade with a creature they actually care about in some capacity. Like the Bookworm, or if the Manifest creature is something important with that, or the Paranormal Analyst. Like, they have a lot of good stuff on their side. So I could have blocked their Manifest creature with my Wary Watchdog to surveil again. But I think because their board is getting so wide, part of me wanted to keep up my blockers for maybe like their more important pieces. The thing is, their fear of falling is going to make blocking a little bleh. And by bleh, I mean inconvenient, because that thing can make things a little less effective when you're on defense. So I give the bat to the same creature. Now we get to tap down 2 things, and we're just gonna get rid of that fear of falling, because a big flyer isn't something my creatures are adept at handling. So I tap down their 2 less important things. If they want to stave off some damage, they have to trade their favorite creature for it, and they don't want to. So now they're only at 5 life, like, and we drew a card. That's not bad. Turns out dual-wielding, nail-studded baseball bats is good. Who knew? So their responses make the board wider, so even if I tap down their creatures, they have things that are expendable. I think it's also important to notice they have the Insidious Fungus, which can... Not this turn because of the ward, but next turn would be able to destroy the trapped in the screen. Although they might just feel like getting rid of a baseball bat and debuffing my creature a little bit. We'll see what they do. Oh, they also pitched a baseball bat. Interesting. Suppose they're just looking for some kind of, like, removal at this point. So I'm thinking about the Rootwise Survivor, because he does have haste, which applies more pressure. And when they have a low life total and they're kind of trying to turtle up with a wide board, sometimes applying more pressure is the way to go. just to keep the opponent like on the back foot rather than stabilizing. I mean, that comes with a grain of salt because if you swing into a really wide board and they kill off a lot of your stuff and then you can't be aggressive, like, essentially they have stabilized and they still have an open board. But we're gonna go for it. And this is what I'm talking about with the wary watchdog just being really inconvenient. Like, no one wants to block that thing because it's just, like, feel bads. Like, it's lasted so long and hit them so many times at this point. It's done a lot of damage throughout this game. So we tap down the unsettling twins. They opt to double block the survivor. I figured that would likely happen because they don't want the survivor to start turning my lands into creatures that can threaten their life total more. And they opt to double block... Oh, are they changing their mind? Okay, with the manifest creature. And then they opt to double block my 4/4. So I can only take out one of their creatures, and I decide we're gonna order it, so we're taking out the bookworm first. And that watchdog is still going through, I'm telling you. He did so much work this game. He's a good boy. We drew another card because the Glimmer Seeker was still tapped, and we have our bunny. They're tapping their mana very specifically. Which makes me think they might have like a combat trick or removal spell or something. That'll work. That'll do. The nice thing is we can move the bat to like the dog and still tap something down to be annoying for them, I guess. The better way to put that would be still apply like really good pressure to them. With the trapped in the screen I got, I'm wondering if I like get something off their board or if I just develop my board more. Okay. Getting rid of twins again. And then we'll move the bat to the bunny. Swing. Tap down the 1/3. So their 1/1 will definitely have to block someone, and whoever gets through is lethal. We found the line to not give them an extra turn. Woohoo! Alright, good game. Second game. Opponent goes first. Hey, we actually got both our lands this time. The only thing is, like, so Sheltered by Ghosts needs to be attached to a creature. So it's sort of a late removal spell, but I still have the Seized by Slumber, and I actually got pretty lucky with the Split Skin Doll, because it's a creature I can play earlier. And in Duskmourn, generally playing a creature on turn 3 doesn't feel, like, late, I would say. But when you're playing an aggressive deck like white-blue or white-red or red-black, sometimes it can feel late. Because now if they discard a card, that goat is like a 5/5 with first strike. That's scary. Gonna sift through one card deeper in the deck. I'm not really sure I want to pitch a land here, but I like having all of these like good, useful spells. So I opt to ditch a land simply because the other things I have to answer this aggressive deck and potentially a really big goat, I think are useful. And I can deploy them with 3 lands. So the only thing that we currently couldn't play is like a Kona. Okay, we take the 5. We got another land, which is nice. Now I'm thinking about how we want to do this. Because if I do Sheltered by Ghosts, there's a chance they can remove that creature, and then this big goat can come back. I decide to sit on defense because I am playing an aggressive deck, and pecking in there for 2 damage doesn't feel like it's gonna be something that could potentially win me this game. Okay, they opt to go find a mountain. So they didn't have anything with haste just yet. Not that we know if they do. Again, I opt not to attack because I don't want to chump block with Kona, essentially. So if they have something big and scary with haste, I would rather chump block with the little tiny doll. They're looking at Kona. Do they have a removal spell, perhaps? They do. Oh, they paid full price for it, too. Wow, okay. Guess the rest of their hand isn't super important. Okay. Play another creature. Now I'm less worried that they might have a haste creature. They play nothing. Wonder if they just have a handful of instant speed stuff. Or maybe they're flooding out with lands, I don't know. We're gonna test the waters before we do anything. They do nothing. Okay. Play another creature, we can leave up Jump Scare, which is kind of nice, because if they have, like, a damage-based spell, Jump Scare might make it big enough for that thing to not be effective. I really wonder if they have nothing but lands. Or maybe they're a 3-colored deck and they can't find their 3rd color. Full swing. Okay, we're gonna draw a card. At this point, I'm just making the board wide so that if they somehow go off and are able to answer a decent amount or put up a lot of blockers, there's a really good chance we can still go around it. Oh, okay, good game. Here we go! 3rd hand of the 3rd game. I kept it pretty quick because I have a creature I can play on turn 2, a creature I can play on turn 3, and I actually have both my colors of lands. Okay, now we have, like, slightly uncomfortably too many lands. I hope I draw useful spells. I do like being able to follow this little house cartographer up with, like, oh my gosh, more lands. With either the baseball bat or, the hardened escort. We're gonna develop the board and wait. I smell a glassworks. The way they're looking around at the creatures like that. We have so many lands. They pass. I wonder if they have like a buff for their creature. I mean, we got a spell. That's kind of nice. Give the baseball bat to the hardened escort. Now it's a 3/5, which means Glassworks can't hurt it. definitely have some kind of instant, I feel like. Or they're just in full control mode. Sometimes they do that. Another land from the house cartographer. Thin in the deck, so maybe we'll draw some spells here. But we have enough lands to play the most expensive spells we have, so we just gotta draw some spells. We'll see what they do. Red-green can really take off with the delirium once it's online. It can be powerful. And they opt to race us. We got a good creature to race with. A friendly ghost can mess stuff up. He's a good blocker. He gives a buff to somebody. Okay. So the reason I'm only using the friendly ghost here is because I want to keep doing damage. Getting another land out of the deck. Alright. Good game. We go! Both our colors and 3 lands. Heck yeah. We do have our biggest boy appearing in our hand for the first time this entire draft. Only took till the 4th game for him to show up. The issue I have with this hand is it feels slow. And I'm playing a green-red deck that's coming at me pretty fast. But it is what it is. Let's see what I get. A dual land. Oh boy. I'm wondering if I should do the Seized by Slumber or the Seized from Slumber now, while they're tapped out. But I suppose we'll wait. We'll see what they do. They opt to find a land, which means their hand is probably all gas. But paying mana for land means, you know, less mana committing more scary creatures to the board, which gives me a chance. I thought they were gonna play Turn Inside Out and turn that into a manifest creature when it dies. Another land. The game is really wanting to provide us with lands right now. I opt not to use the Trapped in the Screen on the Norn, simply because I'm suspicious that they have much scarier creatures to deploy that are going to be more impactful targets. So we got another creature-based spell. Just to slow them down, we're gonna do Trapped in the Screen on their Anthropede here. Taking 2. Playing nothing. Interesting. Another land. That's not good. This feels a little bit like a turning point at this point. Because by the time we get Altenac out, it's gonna be too late. And that doesn't help us. Alright, good game. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually removing a land. Usually I only run 16 lands in draft decks, but I decided to run 17 because that's what people will tell you is a responsible number unless you have like a really low to the ground deck. But like you just saw with the last two games, I just find that 16 lands is less likely to get you to flood out. Like there's something about 17 lands when I play it where I'll just run into that of you draw too many lands so you end up drawing dead and then you're not doing as many impactful things on the board. But that's just me. Here we are. The next game. We still have both our colors. We only have 2 lands. It's fine. Probably. I don't have to worry about it, because I'm just recording. Okay, we do opt to keep it. I figured my past self would do something like that. So now, we can play the Seized by Slumber if they have a creature that's tapped. But now we're just waiting on a 3rd land. Ooh. That might help us go find a 3rd land. Let's go digging. And we got it. What is the least important, do we think? Oh, bye, Kona. You know what's funny is we've only played like Kona once, and we've never gotten the trigger off Kona of actually being tapped and putting something cool on the board. Okay, the Defiant Survivor is scary. And I think I'm thinking about, well, do I want to play mine before I answer theirs? And ideally, we would answer theirs. Yes, okay. Good. Because if theirs goes off, we'll never be able to really, like, get ours to take off. They'll always have blockers that are gonna, like, threaten lethal. And we do have a jump scare and a Horde Vigor to get around that, but I think it's just worth them not getting online. Especially with the Vicious Clown. Like, they have, a lot of creatures that can kind of come out of nowhere, so... Did draw land. And we have access to 2 white. That's cool. So the question is, what do I want to do? Alright. So we do have a jump scare that we could use defensively, if I see fit. That's a chainsaw. I'm really glad I left that 1 mana open. Woohoo! That feels good. They opt to play land and pass. Okay. The scary thing is if they put the chainsaw on the little menace gremlin, it can feel like they're going to win the race if we start racing. Okay, they opt to double block. Let's see what they have. We're gonna give our creature indestructible. And death touch, so they'll lose both. Which I'm sure is not what they wanted. We got a creature on our manifest trigger. Woohoo! I mean, it's still just a 2/2, so we're turning a 2/2 into a 2/2 with vigilance. But it does surveil every time it attacks, so I guess it is like an upgrade worth the 2 mana. They had a second chainsaw. That's actually pretty lucky. Oh man. The counters on them are going up. Yeah, I would turn him face up so we can surveil past extra lands at this point. Gosh. Yep, just like that. Perfect. Oh, they had a flash speed creature. Look at that. So we still do have the Seized from Slumber, but I think I'm gonna let it go and hold it up for if they get both those chainsaws equipped to a creature, because that would be a very high-powered, scary creature. Or that. That thing's huge. And we got another land. Look at us. Oh my gosh. Another land. Yep, get that out of here. We don't need it. It would be kind of cool if we drew Altenac, though, and just, like, finished on a high note. They have a blocker. That's actually a pretty okay blocker. And now it's a blocker that can kill somebody. Never mind. I do have to tap both my creatures to end their blocker, which means we're taking a turn off from surveilling and damage, but it's worth it. Jeez, those things are huge. Oh, we got lucky. They drew a land. Ooh. With the trapped on the screen on top, even if they draw, like, into a creature, we can get rid of their blocker and still have ways to deliver lethal damage. Just like this. Good game. We have only white lands. And we keep it. So the reason I kept it is because we do have a creature we can play on turn 2 that will help us dig for lands. But we also only have one green card in our opening hand. So like at this point we only drew one dead card. And I was okay with that. So I was thinking about just like pitching, there we go, pitching one of the quote dead cards in our hand. Because if the game wants us to play the mono white game, we'll figure it out, maybe. So we commit to the board more. Got our Glimmer Seeker. It looks like we're playing Is It? Okay. My Glimmer Seeker. A jump scare and a trap in the screen and another plains. Our opponent is actually gonna think we're playing mono white. I opt to continue attacking because in the way that our attacks line up, like, I'll end them first if we're just trading with the doll and the peeper damage. Another trapped in the screen. Oh my goodness. I go for the attack to see if they want to trade. And we tell them we're not trading just yet. Okay. We're gonna keep the trapped in the screen for something a little bit scarier. Well, that's a card we're not playing right now. So now they're ahead in terms of racing. Ooh, we got a green land! Look at that! Surprise! I wonder if the opponent's like, what the heck? Where did this come from? They were doing so much with only one color. Okay, they're waiting too. They could have a Glimmer Burst. They could have a counterspell, like Get Out. Or Don't Make a Sound. It's very interesting. If I play the bat, I can't leave up the Horrid Vigor. And if I lose that creature, like, we don't really have another one. But just to turn the damage race back in my favor, I decide to go for it. Oh, they found a 5th land, okay. Alright. It's wild that this game we've just been chipping at each other with little tiny creatures and only one this whole time. And we have the perfect mana to play the big boy. Oh, they were 3 colors, wow. Aw, come on. That's so good right now. Oh well. The funny thing is we can Trapped in the Screen to get rid of the enchantment. And then we have a not hasty trampling 9/9 that we could put the baseball bat on. Which is wild. Good boy. There we go. Baseball bat move. Tap down their creature. And we're just 1 damage away. Alright. Good game. Here we go. On to the next. So, I was happy with this hand. Kind of. Because the Manifest Dread gives us a creature that we could stick the Sheltered by Ghosts on. We can actually utilize the Jump Scare and the Coordinated Clobbering. Our opponent seems like they're either a very heavy thinker, or they are not there at all. Maybe connection problems, I don't know. So we'll get a creature on the ground. Ooh. That's a good creature to get on the ground. And they have a 2/2 blocker. Okay, that's fine. Kind of. I could play the baseball bat if I wanted to just like swing in, but then we can't turn them face up, and if they swing back, they get to go find a land. So part of me is wondering what we're gonna do. I decide we swing, right? Because then if they block, we can play like Jump Scare and not actually trade. And then because we didn't have to use our mana, we can make a 2/2 blocker, and now they can't hit us. Which is kind of nice. I mean, there's always the risk they would remove the Manifest creature and hit us anyway, but eh. And now we just continue being aggressive. Oh. Good game. Go! Here we are! Ooh, I like this hand. 4 lands, 2-drop creature into 3-drop creature, and we have a baseball bat to hopefully make blocking very difficult for the Defiant Survivor. This seems fun. So no more lands. We're good on lands. Ugh. One card deeper in the deck, let's go. And we have Kona! Since we haven't utilized him once yet, we even chucked him in the graveyard at a certain point. So they have a vigilance creature and a defender, which means... oh yikes. I was gonna say, which means even if we use the baseball bat, they're still able to block. So we trade with their creature with more utility. And now we get Kona out. The funny thing is, at this point in time, if Kona's tapped, the only thing we could do is deploy Trapped in the Screen. Like, it would be so much of, like, a bigger move if we could, like, deploy Kona and then slap down, like, Ultimate. So I think we're gonna do what we did a couple games ago. We play Trapped in the Screen to get rid of the enchantment weighing down our creature, and we can still even play the baseball bat, which is wild. We're just gonna hit him for 5, and then we get to play our creature for free, and now our hand has a land. That's it. Wild. Hopefully we draw good, we'll see. They seem to be drawing, like, a really good, happy, like, medium. Like, ratio of runes and enchantments to creatures that actually care about runes and enchantments. So we can get rid of their 4/4, which does threaten lethal. And then we could, tap down their 3/3. So that their block is, like, really bad for them, because they'll lose the 2/2, which they wanted to keep. I guess we'll utilize Kona to just put down a land, and now we have nothing. Yikes, that's a good card. Oh, bye Kona. Okay. And that's not what we needed to see. That may have been the turning point of the game. The nice part is they didn't play the Overlord of the Boiler Bilges for just the creature cost, so he's not here to completely wreck us yet. The problem is that drawing lands at this point really is just drawing dead for us. Like, at least we get something, which with the Head Shredder, like, it is a 5/5, that's a good blocker. But getting another like, actually permanent body on the field, another big creature, would have been really nice. Because their board is wide enough to where they're simply just gonna go around me. Especially with the double strike, yikes. So I can block the double strike creature with the 5/5. And then I have one more turn to see what will happen. But it really doesn't matter, like, how I block. If I block the double striker, I go down to 1. That's not really worth it. So there we go. Another game done. Good game. Here we are with the big make it or break it game, for those of you keeping track, or not. We are at game 6 in terms of wins, and we have 2 losses, so it's like we either get the trophy or we get nothing. And by nothing, I mean, like, we still get to keep our cards and get the gems we got for winning, but we don't get the bragging rights of saying we did it, we got all 7 wins, so they kicked us out. And I kind of like this hand. We have both our dual lands, so we have 2 green sources and the white sources we need to cast any of our spells. And we have probably my favorite 2-drop creature for this instance, because the repeatable surveil every time you attack is a lot nicer than I thought it would be when I first came across this card. So blue-white usually means enchantments, and blue-white enchantments can be pretty aggressive, pretty scary. I don't know what their hand looks like, but they don't feel super aggressive or scary yet. Another Overlord! I didn't get an Overlord. I did get Kona, but... and an Altanac. But, those don't really feel the same as an Overlord when you're drafting. Alright, what's next? We're gonna do Friendly Ghosts. Pump my creature. Just start wailing on them. I think that's a pretty okay thing to do, because now we have a flyer. Which is nice. Just another tough way to block. And we do have Trapped in the Screen, so if the Overlord does come online, we can answer him, because he's conveniently bigger than the friendly ghosts in the air here. And if they play something on the ground, we can play the baseball bat and just keep tapping it down. Also, if they play nothing and just the Overlord, we could keep tapping the Overlord. Wonder who they don't like the most. Okay. We'll play another creature. Got more bats. And we'll just keep pressuring them. I think pressuring them does feel like the right thing to do, because it feels like they're going more of the classic control route. And my top end in this deck isn't huge. Like, Altanac is big, but he's kind of the only, like, big guy here. And they had... so, you're telling me they got an Overlord and Nico. That's wild! They're so lucky! Okay, so the problem with Nico is that he can make copies of a creature with the shards. So he could make copies of the Overlord. And then that really messes us up. Because I don't know how we would deal with 15 power in air coming at us. So, we're gonna sequester Nico. We're gonna put down another baseball bat. We're spreading out the power of our creatures. And we're just gonna keep trying to do something here. I mean, maybe they're feeling the pressure at least a little bit. They're about to go off potentially pretty hard, but that's okay. I could also move the baseball bat that's on the doll to the friendly ghost, and then it's big enough to block their Overlord and not die from it, which is interesting. That was not what we needed, though, because now they have 4 shards instead of 2. Like, that's so many Overlords. That could definitely do us in here next turn, because they'll have 25 power in the air, and I don't have anything to do with that. I do have a jump scare, so if they don't block me here, I can buff my creature and go for lethal. So we'll see what they do in response to this here. They find a blocker. Okay. I mean, that's okay. Let them have it. Fast me is like, no! Don't do this to me! uh, they have a good deck. They got amazing cards. Like a Nico and an Overlord in Nico's colors is wild. Okay. So now I'm thinking about, do I want to trade? Or do I want to save my creature? Because, like, I'm kind of sort of dead regardless. If we're being honest with ourselves here. If they go down to 4, if they lose a blocker, we get our creature back. Coordinated clobbering would have been nice to just have, but here we are. I could move a baseball bat to the manifest creature. I opt not to. And I think I opted not to because, like, with the jump scare in hand, it's buffing the creature enough, to the manifest creature, to where I could block the original Overlord. And because they got rid of a shard, if they turn the shards into the Overlord of the Flood Pits, and I block the original one, I don't die. Of course, this is all hanging on if they have a way to answer the blocker. Oh, and they didn't see it! So, anyway. Super exciting to win with a green-white deck. I should say to trophy with a green-white deck. Just because I don't think this is showcased very often. And it's always really fun when you're in colors that feel more open, because you get, like, multiple dual lands, and that can help stuff run smoothly. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time in a not Duskmourn draft.